In this video, we're going to take a look at the back end of a one-page website that was built using WordPress. WordPress is a website builder that's known as a content management system, or CMS for short. It's very intuitive and allows you to create and manage a website along with posts and pages. You can build a simple one-page website like this one, but you can also build a website with many pages, personal use, business use, blogging, and even online shopping. The options are literally endless as to what kind of website you can build within WordPress. So let's go ahead and go into the back end of this website and take a look around. This is what your typical WordPress backend will look like. You have posts, which is generally used to create blog posts. This particular website does not have a blog, but here's one that does. So we'll take a quick look in the back end of the midlifemilemarker.com website to see what it would look like if you clicked on all posts. And so down here you see 6 different posts. If you want to go in and edit an existing post, you would simply come over here and click Edit with Elementor. This website was built using the Elementor plugin, which we'll talk about in a few moments. But this is a typical post. You could go in and edit this post, add new products, etc. So let's come back over to this one-page website, move down to Media. Media refers to all videos and pictures that would be on your website. If you click on Library, you can see all the pictures that were used on this one-page website. In most cases, you wouldn't need to add pictures or videos by going to this media library, because as you're building your website and your pages, you would add those there. However, there are some instances where you may want to add a link to a downloadable PDF or some other type of media. Then you would come in here and click Add New, and you would click Select Files, to which you could upload whatever media you wanted to upload, and then you could link that item to a page or post that you create in your website. Now if we come down to Pages, it's a very similar layout to the Posts layout, in which you have All Pages and Add New. If you click All Pages, you see the different pages on your website. In this case, as I mentioned, it's just a one-page website, which is called Home in this situation. And WordPress by default always comes with 2 basic pages. One is a privacy policy, and one is a sample page. Since this video is just about the basics of the WordPress back end, we're not going to be diving into any page development processes, but we do have a whole series that will teach you how to build this specific web page step by step to equip you with the fundamentals to enable you to build your own website after stepping through the entire process. So let's keep navigating our way down. This is the comment section. Again, since this page does not have a blog, there will be no comments, but with any typical website that has blogs, any comments that are left by any individual on any of your blog posts will show up here. This contact section is actually from a plugin. This will not be here on a brand new WordPress install. And that's also the same for the Elementor and the templates section. And we'll talk about plugins in just a moment. What you will see on the back end of a typical WordPress installation is appearance. And what you'll see is themes, customize, and menus. The Elementor header and footer builder you will not see because that also was put there by a plugin. So when it comes to themes, if you click on that, the cool thing about WordPress is that you can select a theme to start your website, which means that you can select from a variety of different themes to give you a head start in building your website with a design that someone else created that matches your personality or design that you have in mind. WordPress automatically comes with these 3 themes built in. And to browse a variety of free themes, all you have to do is click Add New. And right off the bat, you'll see what's considered recommended themes. You can just scroll down through and take a look to see if something catches your fancy. And if you want to learn more about that theme, you simply click on that plus button. And you can see here, this is a theme that is built for an online store. So if you wanted to sell something and like the way this looks, you would simply click Install. And of course, I'm not going to do that in this case because we're in the back end of an existing website. But you would simply click Yes, and this theme would be installed on your back end. And in many cases, which probably this one does, is it would come with all the template pages that we see here. all products, about, contact. And so this would give you a great template to start out with. All you would have to do is go in and edit, change out the names, the information, and the logos. And literally within a few hours, you could have your own website by using one of these themes. That is the beauty of using WordPress to start building your own website. So if you come down to customize, this is where some of your basic settings are, like site identity. This is where you would name your site. In this case, this site is called Paul Hannigan. And if you had a tagline, you would also put it there. And where this title and tagline show up will be right on the tab of your website. Paul Hannigan, just another WordPress website. That's actually the default WordPress tagline. We can see here, full-time RV living, midlife mile marker. In this case, with the midlife mile marker, the site title was actually full-time RV living, and then the tagline was midlife mile marker, and you would see that there. And right here, you would put your site icon. By default, that would be the WordPress icon. In this case, we uploaded a custom logo for Paul Hannigan, and this is where you would see that. If you've created multiple menus, right here on the menus tab, you would select which menu that you would want to be on your main page. But the menu itself is not created here. It's created in another section on the back end of WordPress, which we'll also get to before we conclude this video. Go ahead and back out of there. Header and footer. Now what you'll find in many cases, if you're using a website theme or even a builder plugin such as Elementor, it would direct you to another place to create your header and your footer. An additional CSS. In many cases, your typical cookie cutter website, you wouldn't need any CSS, but if you do need additional CSS, this would be the section where you enter it. And of course, if you go through this tutorial, you will see that there were some sections that we use custom CSS in this website. So let's go ahead and get out of this section. Come back down to the next part, which is menus. And this is where you see that main menu that we just saw in the previous step. Menus are created here. If you had a multi-page website, this is where you would link all your different pages. In this case, this is a one-page website with different sections. And these are the sections: home, about, work, projects, books, let's work together, contact. And how this menu functions, all these sections have anchors to which this menu points to. And so as you click one, it drops it down to that section. Again, we're just showing you the basics of a WordPress backend. If you want to further see how to create a menu and the whole process of building a website from start to finish, check out the videos we created that steps us through the building of this site. As I already stated, this was put in here by a plugin, so this will not be in a brand new WordPress install. And speaking of plugins, let's go ahead and come down here. This is our plugins section. A plugin is basically a small software application that gives you more features and functions to implement in your WordPress website. For example, on this website that we're in the back end of, this typewriter effect could be created using a bunch of custom CSS, but in this case, a plugin made this a very simple process to complete, which is a great benefit of using WordPress, because if there's any special thing that you want to add to your website, if it exists, you'll be able to find it in the WordPress plugin library that offers a huge variety of options. And there's two ways to get to that library. If you're already in this plugin section, you can click Add New, but you can also get there on this dashboard underneath of the plugin section. So let's go ahead and click Add New. And just like the themes, WordPress highlights 25 plugins, which it calls must-have plugins. Google Analytics, all-in-one SEO. But if you wanted to see more, simply click WordPress directory, and there's over 9,000 options. Now, you probably wouldn't just want to browse through these just to get ideas. But if there was a specific thing you were looking for, you would simply come up here to this keyword search and search for whatever it is you were looking for. For example, if you wanted to replicate the typing effect that I just showed you, simply type typing effect and click search. And here you will find plugins that have the keywords that you just searched for. And if you look at the description, you can determine whether or not this is what you were looking for. Create an animated typing effect that allows words to be typed out onto a post or page. Of course, this is the one that we used in this website. And if you didn't already have it installed, it would give you the option to install just like you see right here. So you would simply install that plugin, and just like that, you've added an element to your website that you did not have to do any coding or hire someone to do for you. Let's go ahead and scroll down to the next part, which is users. If we click on all users, you'll see every user that has access to the back end. In this case, you'll see my username, as I am in the back end of the website that was recreated to mock this website. If there were more users or admins on this website, you would see them here. If you wanted to add one, you could either add them underneath of the users section here in the dashboard, or if you're already in the list of users, you could click add new here, and you would enter their username, email, first, last name, website. These three you don't have to enter anything in because they're optional, but if you wanted to, you certainly could. And then you would come here and select the role of this user. If this were a blog page, you could just make them a subscriber or a contributor or an author or an editor, or give them complete authority and make them an administrator. So let's go ahead and come on down to the next section, which is tools. But some of these tools have gotten a little advanced. You can convert categories and tags by using the categories and tags converter. And then there's an import option, which would enable you to import blogs from another page. For example, if you had another website that you wanted to import your blog posts from, you would simply click on the import button. Same with export. You could export blog posts, pages, and some other aspects of your website. Site health just tells you how healthy your website is, and it does give a recommendation. You should remove inactive themes. And that simply means to get rid of any themes that you are not using. If you remember back when we were looking at themes, these are the 3 default themes that comes with WordPress. And the easiest way to delete them is simply hover over a theme, click it, and come down to the right and click delete. And you would repeat that process for these other 2 themes. And then you have export personal data, erase personal data, which on a typical website would not be needed. However, if you do have a blog page or a subscription page, or maybe even an online store page, if you clicked on that, you would see this tool helps site owners comply with local laws and regulations by deleting or anonymizing known data for a given user. So if you did have users on here or had sold items on here, you would see all that information here, and you could either export those or delete those as necessary. And last but not least are the WordPress settings. Now, if you went to general, you would also have an option in here to put your site title and your tagline, your administration email address. And then you have an option here for membership. Since this is not a blog or membership page, this is unchecked. But if you selected that, there would be an option on your page for someone to register as a user. And the default role for any registered user that comes through your website would be subscriber. You could obviously change that, but by default, subscriber is where you would want that to stay. And here you put your time zone, your date format, time format, whatever preferences fits your website and your location, week starts on, and usage tracking. Then you have your writing section, which is where you can specify your default post category, your default post format, post via email. If you have blog posts on your website, you could actually set up an email address to send your posts to. And once the email is sent, the website would automatically post that for you. If you come down to reading, this is where you set up what page loads when someone comes to your website. If it was a blog page, you could have them come to your latest posts, or in most cases, you would have it come to a static page. And since we only have one page titled Home to choose from, that's what's selected here. But if you had multiple pages, you would want to select the page that you created as the default landing page for your website. And you can set up how many blogs you would like to show on your blog page. Likewise, if you had a syndication feed, you could set the number of posts that you would want to show up on that feed. And on that blog page, you could determine if you wanted full text or excerpt. Most people would use excerpt for that. For example, if we go to the midlifemilemarker.com blog page, instead of seeing the whole post, you would just see an excerpt to give you an idea of what each individual post is all about. And so discussion is also all related about post, your default post settings, comment settings, email me whatever. If you wanted an email anytime someone posted a comment, or if you wanted an email letting you know that a comment is held for moderation, which you can specify down here in this section, what would require a comment to be held in moderation. And here's some more safety measures. Comment must be manually approved, which is always a good idea because that would keep spammers or any foul language or any comments that you wouldn't approve of to show up in your comments section. And here you can also set up comment keys to block or filter any words that you do not want to show up in your comment sections. And here's a few more settings, including avatars, which are basically user icons that the users will set up themselves. You have the option to allow their avatars to be displayed. And as a safeguard, you can set up the minimal level of an avatar that you want to be displayed, which all these are self-explanatory. If a user does not have a custom avatar, you can determine what you want to be displayed in its place. Blank, mystery person, yada, 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 you get the idea. After setting that up, you would simply click Save Your Changes. Down to the next, media. This is the media specifications on your thumbnail size, medium-sized pictures, large-sized pictures. Default usually works just fine. Permalinks. This is the structure of your different pages and posts. For example, by default, which is normally acceptable, your website address and then the post or the page name. For example, back to the Midlife Mile Marker page, you'll simply see midlifemilemarker.com/RV upgrades and renovations. That's the name of that page. If you would go to the contact page, that's the page title, Contact Midlife Mile Marker. Again, that's the default, and that works in most cases for any website. In the privacy section, there's a safeguard as described here. As a website owner, you may need to follow national or international privacy laws. For example, you may need to create and display a privacy page policy. If you remember, by default, WordPress does come with a privacy policy draft. If you wanted a privacy policy, you could go in and edit that page, modify that page, or put any privacy policy that you want to set in place. If that concerns you, you can simply Google best website privacy policy procedures to learn more about whether or not that would apply to your website. So that pretty much does it for the back end of a WordPress website. These down here are all settings that come from the plugins that we're using in this website. So you would not see these in the default back end of a brand new WordPress website. So again, this was a basic look at the back end of a WordPress website. It's pretty easy to navigate. If it looks a little confusing or overwhelming, just know that once you get in here and start building, you'll find that it's a simple process to build a website. Maybe a little time consuming at first, but well worth the effort to take on the task of building your own website so that you know how to add pages, navigate, add posts on your own without relying on someone else to do the work for you. If you do want to take that next step forward to building a website, feel free again to watch our whole tutorial of building this website from start to finish. It will give you a good enough understanding to build your own WordPress website once you step through this entire process. Thanks so much for watching and have fun building your own WordPress website.